Alright, what has occurred, fellow human beings? No, really what I say is, what's up, y'all? My name is Evan Strong, the founder of InTheImageClothingCompany. I'm going to step back a ways here. I understand I'm going to be partially shaded for part of the video. The sun will move, it is what it is. Today is, like I said, if I said it, I did say it, the 10th of May, 2026. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of InTheImageClothingCompany. And this is a video under our main side, one of our forwards to In the Image Clothing Company, where what we do and what our slogan is allowing the body to work. Just for reference, for context, for the video, I'm wearing the Zero Shoes branded Ridgeway model boots. We don't have any affiliation with them as of now, the 10th of May 2026, as In the Image Clothing Company. But just for credit for what or whose shoes I'm wearing in this video, there you go. This video's title, the 9th of May 2026, In the Image Clothing Company's main site, plus one more day, it's actually the 10th. Alright. Keeping the elbows and the knees tracking in line. Okay. Keeping the elbow joints and the knee joints tracking in line. Here's the thing, we're a clothing company. Why are we a clothing company? Well, clothing's the only thing physically placed onto our bodies. The only reason we're a clothing company is to get to the functionality of the human body, right? Glasses, jewelry, hats, pants, tops, shoes, socks, undergarments, anything at all you could possibly place onto the body. It's just the literal word of clothing. The way that God clothes the fields with grass, we clothe our bodies with anything. Dante's here, my current standard poodle, as you can see if you can, right? In the Image Clothing Company Poodles, another one of our forwards where we let dogs stay natural. The same thing as allowing the body to work here for human beings, but giving information applying to all dogs and specializing in purebred standard size, which is the large size of the breed of the poodle. Okay, like Dante here. So, clothing. It's always on our bodies. It's got to stay centered. It's got to fit correct, because we've got things like joints of material of clothing meshing with joints of body parts. And it has to be made in all the ways we can from 100% natural materials, because there's no opinion to natural. Matter cannot be created or destroyed. Everything that's here on the earth was always here when God made it. We're designed in the image of God, in the image of Jesus Christ as human beings. Here's your clothing company to not alter the body. Alright? The body's only what we eat. We eat plants that grow from the earth, or we eat animals that ate plants that grow from the earth. And then there you go. The human being grows. And it's only natural. The goal is natural on all four sides of In the Image Clothing Company, and there's no possible opinion to it, you know. I mean, there's no approach. It's just what it is. So, yeah, the thing is, our bodies can get into deeply ingrained chronic patterning, scar tissue building up and bone spurs building up. When our bodies are trying to work around, the only thing physically placed on them, just our clothing, the literal word of just something placed on something else, how God clothes the fields with grass, right? Grass is placed on the fields, well, clothing's placed on our bodies. And if it's not working for our bodies, after years, tens of years, right, decades, or almost an entire lifetime of imbalances in clothing, anything too, right? And I'll explain some of those right here, but our bodies will get severely damaged trying to work around these things constantly. Gravity having the same effect on our clothing that it has on our bodies. This vertical pull to gravity meshing with the horizontal surface to the planet Earth. It's a 90-degree angle, a right angle, a perpendicular angle. And there truly is, always has been, and always will be only one way the human body could ever work, because it's determined by the shape and length of the bones connecting directly to each other through ligaments. And they're very specifically shaped on the ends, and they can only connect the way they can. And then muscles connect to the bones, and they pull only, right? The human body only pulls. The video's title here under In the Image Clothing Company's main side. I also like to reference another video here under In the Image Clothing Company's main side, along with that, you know, where it makes sense to. The human body is just mechanics, because the muscles, they pull where they connect to bones at insertions called tendons, and so we pull to close a hinge joint, but then we have opposing muscles that pull on the back side, if you will, to extend the hinge joint. We don't actually push as human beings. We just pull to extend hinges, and things go farther from us, like the foot or the hand, by extending the hinge of the knee or the elbow. And so that's this video's title, right? Keeping the elbow joints and the knee joints tracking in line. The elbow joint and the knee joint, but yeah, however we title it exactly, yes, right? That's the thing. Keeping the elbow joint and the knee joint tracking in line. That sounds good to me, right? That titling. It also sounds good to have that be the case, because what I'm saying is some of these things in clothing, they get us into deeply ingrained chronic patterning, are things like oversized clothing, when we don't have joints of material of clothing meshing with the joints of our body parts. And we discussed where clothing sits very clearly on the human being to not alter the body. For a man, a woman, tall, short, skinny, fat, any age, any part of the earth, any time period to ever be, we're all just human beings, right? And within this universal human design, it's just mechanics. It's just hinges, levers, and rotations, and just measurable mathematical degrees of motion to allow the body to just function and take us across this earth. So when it comes to oversized clothing, well, things like the edge seams of our tops, for example, they need to be sitting as close as we can right to the very edge of our shoulders, where we've got a joint of 3 joining bones that become the shoulder. If we can have the clothing material join at the same location as the joints of our body parts, then the body parts can move without having to try to work around an oversized top item of clothing and damage the body, right? So the body has a neutral position, like the wrist. For example, right? The wrist can come up or the wrist can go down from the neutral position, which is just the finger bones tracking in line, stemming at the elbow and coming all the way out to the fingertips, okay? A neutral position. And oversized clothing will just pull down on our bodies to the low end of their neutral position, right? So that's one of the big things, okay? Chronic patterning will get created. The body trying to work around oversized clothing, well, the body's gonna have to change how it works because there's just something physically in the way, and this over time will cause a lot of damage in the body, okay? Then we have to getting out of chronic patterning is really what we do here under In the Image Clothing Company's main side, one of our fourths, when it comes to allowing the body to work, because, well, there's only one way it can, and if we've got things physically placed on it, just the literal word of clothing, that don't allow it to work, damage, right? We've got to reverse these patternings. And so another big thing is just anything at all that's different in clothing: pockets, buttons, zippers, seams, okay? Anything at all like this that's just different left to right, front to back in clothing, again, day after day, year after year, if with these imbalances, will damage our bodies big time. And we've just got to get out of the pattern that gets created, okay? So shoelaces, drawstrings, these are just ropes now that we're introducing to the body. Clothing the body with ropes. You tie one side of a rope over the other side of a rope, or anything at all that you could tie one side over the other on or around the human being, you're going to twist the entire body, and it's just going to be a problem, right? Day after day, year after year, a rope tied around the body, like on the ankles, okay, to hold the shoes on, like around the waist to hold the pants on. If the knot that we use to tie these ropes isn't just working for the body, the only way the body's bones track, connecting directly to each other through ligaments, then we'll get into deep chronic patterning, and we just got to break up the problems, okay? The scar tissue, it's got to be loosened up, where this once pliable tissue gets so tough because it's trying to hold on to the body and allow it to do something in a position that the clothing's not allowing it to do. And bone spurs, where the muscles that connect to the bones through tendons and only pull and only track directly in line, right? If they're not allowed to do this because they're working around clothing, the muscle will pull on the bone in an unnatural position, just the way, you know, a different way than the bones connect. And we'll get a bone spur, where the bone will just grow unnaturally large and misshapen because the muscle's just pulling on it in a position it can't actually work in. So it's like this clash because we're trying to work around something physically placed on us, right? There's no opinion, no sales pitch, no approach, no new information, nothing we could take credit for under In the Image Clothing Company. I'm serious when it comes to how the human body works, but the only end is to allow God's design of the human being to work. In order for God to even word it as him designing us in his image, he had to first look like us. And God, also being called the truth, is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Just like anything that is ever true, it always was, and anything that ever was true always will be. It's unchanging, right? The human body. So, there's no approach to it. There's no way we can possibly train the human being. It's truly mechanically, mathematically impossible. Physically, it's impossible because unless you were to change the shape and length of the bones through something like a surgical procedure, they only connect the way they do, and they can only track directly in line by the muscles pulling on them, right? Directly in line. That's all muscles do is pull, and just from where they grab something, okay, a bone, at one end of the muscle, through a tendon, it inserts to a bone, but then on the other end of the muscle grabs onto, inserts, adheres to a bone through a tendon. There's only two anchor points, or if there's multiple anchor points, just meaning that no matter how many there are, you can only pull from where it's connected directly to where it's connected on the other end. There's only one way the human body could ever work. The thing is, you can get all the muscle mass you want, the size, the hypertrophy, bigger muscles, or you can get stronger muscles for a time by excessively working your body out to gain excessive muscle mass. But once you stop excessively working your body out, it goes back to the human body's only normal, okay? We discuss the human body's only normal a lot here under In the Image Clothing Company. The normal resting heart rate per minute, the normal resting respiratory rate per minute. This is the amount the heart beats and the lungs breathe, just measured per minute, okay? There's a normal individually from human to human. The normal body temperature, 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit always. And the body regulates it by itself. Really, God regulates it for us. Nothing can even happen until it does. And so how's it happening? When these things happen when we're asleep, you know, all the things the body does. God is orchestrating everything. He's doing everything behind the scenes, if you will, but just meaning always. So a normal balance of fat content versus muscle mass in the body, to just have a healthy balance individually with our own individual bodies, right? We're individual to a degree within the universal human design, but there's still only one way the body works and functions, just baseline, you know? So water, hydration, okay, lubrication for the body versus food, which is fuel. A healthy balance. There's just a normal to the body, right? So once you stop excessively trying to work your body out to get it stronger than it just is, or larger muscles than it just is, or to run faster than you just can for a time, your body always goes back to normal afterwards. It happens to everyone, every time period ever, all human beings, forever. Okay? There's only one way the human body could ever work. There's no possible opinion to that when we get down to the truth of it. It's mathematics. It's undisputed. But why isn't it working then? Well, like I'm saying, we don't have an approach here under In the Image Clothing Company. Man, I'm starting to wake up too. Also, the sun's going to start moving away from behind the tree a little bit, so I won't be shaded quite like this. But I did just wake up about a half hour ago, give or take. So, just for some context, what I'm saying is the video will flow better once I get a little bit more lively, and it's happening, is what I'm saying, okay? But what is happening truly is clothing. No joke. I mean, no opinion to it. It's just the only thing physically placed on our physical bodies. It's just in the way if it is. And our bodies are just this mechanical machine placed onto this rock in space that is our Earth. We live in this unnatural, modern man-made world that we place onto God's natural Earth. We've got a lot of things that are damaging our bodies, okay? So, anyway, for this video's title, I mean, there's some good context on what's going on with the body, how there's no possible opinion to it. There's only one way it could ever possibly work. It's just a mechanical machine. And then also some context on clothing, how it gets us into chronic patterning, so we don't understand why our bodies aren't working. But you can address anything you ever want to address in your life. But everything we ever do in our lives, we're doing it in and through our clothing. So under In The Image Clothing Company here, we discuss everything and doing it naturally that we do as a human being. Standing, sitting, walking, sleeping, breathing, eating, hydration, but everything. Except you can't do anything at all without doing it through your clothing if you're wearing clothing. And you just can't be working around your clothing because your body only does what it does. So the clothing has to work for the body, right? So we give a lot of free modifications in clothing to allow the body to work. We discuss the anatomy of the human body in depth, like I'm going to be doing a lot of in this video here on the 10th of May 2026 under In The Image Clothing Company's main side, right? Keeping the elbow joint and the knee joint tracking in line. Well, yeah, I'm going to talk about this pretty darn thoroughly. This is still just the intro, you know, we do it as we do it under In The Image Clothing Company. Well, normally what I say when I say that is blunt, bold, raw, and real. In The Image Clothing Company style, if you will. But also, we just thoroughly explain, at least me, Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, what we're talking about. So it's not like we just have some kind of idea we're throwing out there. I discuss things in such thorough depth you couldn't possibly dispute it because it's not my choice, but we can just understand truth as human beings. Like, the truth is, we didn't design the body, it grows for itself, the heart beats by itself, the lungs breathe by themselves, the eyes blink by themselves, the body will heal itself if it gets cut. And this is just God doing all of these things for us in the very beginning of all of this, you know, designing the body to begin with for us to even have. But it just does what it does, and we could never change how it works. So we really do allow the body to work here under In The Image Clothing Company. And why are we a clothing company? Well, there you go. Now you know, if you didn't know really anything about us before this video. From this intro here up until this point, it's just only because it's the only thing physically placed on the body. That's why we're a clothing company. You know, so we'll always have good clothing for sale, staying centered, fitting correct, and being made in all the ways we can from 100% natural materials at the baseline. But we get in depth with a lot of things in clothing, and, you know, we'll incorporate what's needed into our designs, you know, as our clothing is available. Based here in St. George, Utah. Yeah, I'll be doing this my entire lifetime because it applies to every body who has one and everyone who has a body. These are the things we miss when we're trying to understand why our bodies aren't working as human beings. Clothing, first off, you have to address the only thing physically placed on your physical body to allow it to even work properly. Which, you know, God designed the body to work. It would just work. It does just work. You look at the babies and the toddlers, and they've got all their natural functioning and motion in their bodies. But as time progresses, we get into patterning if we do, and it gets deep. Right, the damage and just the depth of patterning built up in the body. So we get out of chronic patterning, right, as I'm saying. And I've done it, you know, I've gone before. As I say, you can watch my body's visual and physical transformation as the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. No kind of sales pitch. I mean, it's not like after some time you'll find out that I just had some idea. As I say, come back in 1,000, 5,000, 85,000 years from now, you know, in this case, the 10th of May, 2026, to see what we're discussing under In The Image Clothing Company and if it's still valid. And yes, it is. Truly, there is only one way the human body could ever work. You can measure it with a tape measure, right? It's just measurable degrees of motion in the human being, okay? So, anyway, what I'm saying is, it took me 2 years. Is the video's title under In The Image Clothing Company's main site here. And, you know, give or take about 2 years, still a little bit of residual patterning is what I'm dealing with, breaking up to a degree. I mean, even this morning, no joke, literally, I mean it. But yeah, just to get out of chronic patterning, it's a process because it's taken maybe decades to get into the patterning. So it takes a good amount of time to get out of the patterning just naturally without trying to do something like a surgical procedure. You know, we just need to yeah, I mean, get our bodies mobile again, really. Break up the scar tissue, the bone spurs, and just allow things to track in line. And so that brings us to this video's title, because that's the focus, is things just tracking in line. Like I say, it's not my opinion or choice, but the truth is, right, the only way the body can work is how the bones connect to each other. Like when I mesh my knuckles of my fingers and my hands here together, they can only fit one way. I twist them a little bit and they just don't fit together. And I twist them the other way a little bit and they just don't fit together. This is literally bones of the body that you can see on the exterior. Like the knuckles of the hands, you can see the bones because there's just a thin layer of skin over them. But this is how all the bones in the body are. They only connect exactly, really, I mean exactly, the way they are shaped. Otherwise they wear each other out. We've got a thin layer of cushioning between the bones that's called cartilage. And if we don't have the bones just being the only shape they are on the ends, tracking together, meshing well, we wear out the cushioning between the bones, and then the bones end up wearing each other out, right? So the body just can only possibly do what it does. That's it. It's determined by the shape and length of the bones. So that brings us to this video's title on the 10th of May, 2026, under In The Image Clothing Company's main side. Keeping the elbow joint and the knee joint tracking in line. Well, watch this. My thumbs. Alright. Thumbs straight forward. That's a neutral elbow joint. Now, if we didn't have rotations in the body, the elbow joint and the knee joint are just a simple hinge, really. At the elbow, we point the thumbs forward with our arms just hanging down at our sides. And now if we bend our elbows up to just like a 90-degree bend, the thumbs are still just pointing essentially forward. Now it's up, but we just bent the elbow. You know, we bend the elbow all the way till the thumbs touch the shoulders, and the thumbs are just pointing straight forward. The elbow is just a simple hinge if there's no rotations happening in it, but there are rotations happening in it. And I'll get to this after I discuss the knees, because the same thing with the knees. The knees, if we just have our bodies neutral, no rotations going on at that time, right? We just bend the knee, it's just a simple hinge joint. Okay? Straight out from the pinky toes forward is the neutral, though. Just like the thumbs, just straight forward is the neutral for our arms. But we have rotations, okay? So the arms, from the fingertips up to the elbow, we've got internal rotation, bringing the thumbs in, where we've got external rotation, pointing the thumbs out. And how this is happening is from the wrist, at the base of the hand here, up to the elbow joint, there's two bones in the forearm, a radius and an ulna. And these bones, you can see what they're doing by taking your own two arms and putting your own two forearms together. Now if we rotate one arm over the top of the other arm, we can twist both of these arms. This is happening within each side of the body's arms. There's two bones in each forearm, and they just rotate over each other, internal, or they rotate over each other, external, okay? In toward the body or out away from the body. You can just follow the thumb to see this. When we bend our elbows and our thumbs point up, we point the thumbs inward, that's internal rotation, and we point the thumbs outward, and that's external rotation in the forearms. So, keeping elbows at the natural waist is a huge focus just in daily life. It's a video's title here under In The Image Clothing Company's main side. And here's the deal. There's a neutral, right? To the wrist, like I showed, it can go down or up. And the neutral between those two is just the way the finger bones are shaped and connecting to each other. The elbow, it can go down or up, and it sits at the natural waist. So above the hip bones, but below those lowest ribs, is our natural waist, where we bend side to side at the spine. We can't bend side to side at the hips. We'd have to have a foot come off the ground, because we've got a leg on either side of the body, below the hips, or the pelvis structure. But above the hips, or the pelvis structure, we've got the spine in the center line of the body, and so the spine can bend left to right, okay? Now, keeping elbows at the natural waist. That way the elbows, which is just the radius and ulna in the forearm, meeting the humerus in the upper arm bone, yeah, which is the humerus, these can meet right here at the waist where they're not hitting into bones, right? The joint of the elbow, it can meet at the waist, below those rib bones and above the hip bones, and then just motion can happen. Regardless of how you carry fat content, there's just no bones at the natural waist until we get to the center line of the body at the spine. And so here, the bottom end of the upper arm bone is the elbow, but the top end of the upper arm bone is the shoulder. So anywhere the shoulder goes, the elbow goes, and anywhere the elbow goes, the shoulder goes. But we can go so far as to say, when we straighten the elbow, between the hand and the shoulder, the hand and shoulder will do the exact same thing. And anywhere the hand goes, the shoulder will go as well, rotation-wise, internal rotation or external rotation, but also just any motion the hand goes, the shoulder follows. Because when we straighten the elbow between the hand and shoulder, it just becomes one straight arm, all doing the same thing, okay? Now this is the same in the foot to the knee. We have these two bones in the lower leg that are just like the two bones in our forearms. We've got a tibia on the inside of the lower leg and a fibula on the outside of the lower leg. And then we've got internal rotation, bringing the foot in, or external rotation, bringing the foot out, okay? And when we get up to the knee joint, that's what I'm saying is, without those rotations, the knee is just a simple hinge. But then we've got those rotations, and then that can really change the way the knee will bend. And so we'll discuss it thoroughly in this video, but just like if we straighten the elbow between the hand and shoulder will do the exact same thing. If we straighten the knee between the foot and the hip, then the foot and the hip will do the exact same thing. Rotations, internal rotation from the neutral, pinky toe straight forward, or external rotation from the neutral, pinky toe straight forward. But then anywhere the foot goes, the hip goes, just in general, just like the hand to the shoulder, okay? So, what we have is these simple hinges of the elbows or the knees changing if we add rotations. Okay? So, I just have some stuff over there I'm just kind of keeping an eye on, but we just will bend straight, okay? The thumbs just pointing straight forward, they'll just bend at the elbow joint and keep pointing straight forward. As we bend the elbows, the thumbs will point up, but as we straighten the elbows, the thumbs just point straight forward. The pinky toes just point straight forward when our body is just working properly, with these feet opposing the center line of the human body, gripping arches inward. That's how we stay vertical on Earth's vertical gravity pull. But yeah, as we bend the knee, the pinky toe just continues to point straight forward in the neutral if there's no rotations happening. But as I've said many times, as the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, me, Evan Strong, and just made clear, the body won't do very much. It can't do very much if there's not rotations to it. If the body didn't have these internal or external rotation functions, from the fingertips to the elbow, from the fingertips to the shoulder, from the toe tips to the knee, or from the toe tips to the hip, then the body wouldn't be able to do very much functioning, because we'd just be in this simple hinge range of motion, just bending straight at the elbow and just bending straight at the knee. And this is all the body would do if there wasn't rotations as well, really. I mean, seen with context, but just meaning the rotations, they play into all the functioning of the body being able to happen big time. And so this video's title, right? The 10th of May, 2026, In The Image Clothing Company's main side. What's the title? Oh yeah, keeping the elbows, joints, and knee joints tracking in line, right? we have to keep them tracking in line for the sake of allowing them to reside in their neutral, so that from there we can have rotations, both internal or external. If we're not starting from the neutral, we can't have even rotations on either side of the neutral, okay? Neutral, rotation inward, neutral, rotation outward at the knee, from the foot to the knee, in those two bones in the lower leg. But then we've got neutral, rotation inward, and neutral, rotation outward at the elbow, from the fingertips to the elbow. This won't be able to happen, just both sides of functioning, if we're not first just starting and residing in our neutral positions. That's what I'm saying. That's what we discussed. That's just how it is mathematically and mechanically. There's no possible opinion to it. The human body has a neutral position, and that's just its resting state. Like gravity. Not just like gravity, but gravity. Just pulling our bodies into their resting state. Right? Like the pendulum of the arm hanging down at our sides with Earth's vertical gravity pull, that's our neutral. And then our bodies just have their full range of motion from there. And there's only one way the human body could possibly ever work. But again, there's no kind of possible opinion to it. It's clothing. The only thing physically placed on it is not allowing the body to work. There's no possible opinion to this being the fix. You know, it doesn't matter what kind of exercises you ever tried to do. You can't train to a resting state. You can't train to a neutral position. You rest there. You know? There's only one way the human body could ever work. There's no possible opinion to it. And we get to the truth of it. So, what I'm saying is, this video's title, that's the reason this video's title is here, is because these are big joints of the body. The knee is just the joint between the hip and the foot, and the elbow is just the joint between the hand and the shoulder. And so these are big areas to not have problems in, because it'll travel through the rest of the body. The human body is a kinetic chain, meaning it's all connected. Right? Everything's got its own role that it plays, a different function than everything else in the body. And so we can't have things like compensation trying to happen in the body, where certain things in the body, let's say, aren't working properly. We can't have other things in the body try to make up for their role, because everything does a completely different task. So the human body's just got to work all together, activated as a whole. Everything in the body is just playing its function and just working properly, because it's all there. We can't drag around dead weight. Everywhere any of the body goes, all of it comes. It only works all together, or it doesn't work, right? You can't approach only part of your body. It's all got to do everything that everything in it does, because it's all connected. So, this video's titled, the 10th of May, 2026, in the Image Clothing Company's main side, keeping the elbow joint and the knee joint tracking in line. Well, this is coming from a lot of different places than the actual elbow joint or the knee joint, okay? And I'll discuss this. Because what we have is the foot being the bottom end of the knee joint, but the hips being the top end of the knee joint. The hand being the bottom end of the elbow joint, but the shoulder being the top end of the elbow joint. So if we alter the hand, we alter the elbow. If we alter the foot, we alter the knee. If we alter the shoulder, we alter the elbow. And if we alter the hip, we alter the knee. There's just two ends. A top end to the knee and a bottom end to the knee. A top end to the elbow and a bottom end to the elbow. Okay? So, in order for us to keep our elbow joint and our knee joint tracking in line, this video's title, under In the Image Clothing Company's main side, the 10th of May, 2026, keeping the elbow joint and the knee joint tracking in line, just meaning in their neutral positions, so they have their function outside of their neutral positions. The only way this will happen is if we're looking at the hand on one end of the elbow joint and the shoulder on the other end of the elbow joint, and if we're looking at the foot on one end of the knee joint and the hip on the other end of the knee joint. Because both ends have to be working naturally, neutrally, normally, the synonyms with how the human body functions, right, that we discuss under In the Image Clothing Company. In their neutral positions is how the body normally works, and that's just how it would naturally be. Or this is how it naturally works, and that's how it would normally be. However you want to word it, God designed the body to work. That's why we have this thing. And so that's the only way it can happen, because that's the only way the bones mesh, is neutral, okay? So, yeah, rotations, they come from the neutral first. You always have to reside in the neutral and everything in your body for it to all work together. Otherwise, things will bind up. Things will be in one position that other things aren't, and now everything's altered, right? It's all connected. So what we have is the need to have the neutral positions remain. So we're going to either affect the hand to affect the elbow, affect the shoulder to affect the elbow, affect the foot to affect the knee, or affect the hip to affect the foot. Someone's watching me from behind, so I'm just looking over at them. But we have rotations coming from either end, really, meaning the hip has its own rotations. We've got internal rotation or external rotation in the hip traveling down to the knee. We've got internal rotation or external rotation in the shoulder traveling down to the elbow. So if we alter or affect either end of the joints of the elbow or the knee, the joints will be damaged. They only can track in line, because otherwise the bones will clash into each other, wear each other out, and the cushioning between them out first, the cartilage. But then, also we'll just be lacking motion on one side from the other side of the neutral if we're just stuck already in one side of the neutral, okay? So what I'm saying is, I don't like to be watched from behind, no matter who it is. But also, we have things at the bottom end of the knee that are going to affect the knee, which is going to be things in the shoes. Shoelacing, discrepancies. We've got lacing, right, which is weaving ropes across the top of the feet. That's all it is. But then we've got tying the shoes as well, just to keep the shoes on our feet, and that's a knot. So we've got a weave of a rope that can affect the arch of the foot, and then we've got knots that can affect the rotation of the ankle, really the foot, but through the ankle joint where it's tied onto the foot, the shoe, traveling up to the knee. We've got shoe soles that could affect the feet, traveling up to the knee. We've got tongue tabs in shoes that could affect the feet, traveling up to the knee. We've got socks that could affect the feet, traveling up to the knee. We've got anything and everything down at the bottom of the knee joint, at the foot, that'll travel up and affect the knee, okay? And I'll discuss some of these things a little bit more thoroughly as we go through this video. We've got anything and everything in the waistband of the pants that could affect down to the knee. We've got drawstrings. You could tie a knot that's not even and horizontal and centered, just like the hip structure needs to be, with its own rotations, like I'm saying, at the hips, the top of these upper leg bones, the femoral head coming down to the knee joint. We've got anything in the waistband of pants at all, like seams that could possibly be different or discrepant, just anywhere in the waistline or the waistband of pants. We've got buttons, we've got pockets, and potentially things in pockets, which should never be done, will just alter the position of the hips and travel down to the knee joint. We will have any kind of thing possible, like zippers in waistbands of pants. Zippers interlock one side over the other, and that's how they connect, and that will travel down to the knee joint. So things on the bottom end of the knee, like at the foot area or the ankle, traveling up to the knee joint, potentially altering the knee. Things up at the waistband of the pants or the hips area, potentially being altered, traveling down to the knee. And there you go, we've got two sides of the knee, top and bottom, even through the airplane noise, right? That could potentially affect the knee's functioning and not do what this video's title is, right? Not allow it to happen when the title is keeping the elbow joint and the knee joint tracking in line, yeah, you know, there's a lot of things going on. This is what I'm saying. There's no possible opinion to it. The only thing physically placed onto the human being, clothing, just a literal wording of it, it's in the way if it's in the way. You tie a rope around your ankle and you twist your ankle, it'll travel up to the knee through those rotations in the two bones in the lower legs, the tibia and the fibula. You tie a rope around your waist, one side over the other in a knot, it'll twist the hips at the top of the upper leg bones, it'll travel down into the knees and affect the knee, and it won't allow the knee to track in line, right? So these are some things down here at the knee joint, right? In clothing, that's the thing. The only way you can possibly allow the body to work, well, while wearing clothing, is to have it not altering your body. It's just the only thing physically placed on your body. Really, I can word it like this. No matter what, your body will be altered. If your clothing's not sitting on your body properly, the only way your body works, right? So that's a point as well. Just on the other end, the same thing. Or maybe the same thing on the same end, but just worded differently. Anyway, let's talk about the elbow. Some things that'll affect the elbow from the hand up through the rotations in the forearm, the radius and ulna, those two bones, or some things that'll affect the elbow from the shoulder down, with the shoulder having its own rotations, just like the hip has its own rotations, right? This video is titled, the 10th of May, 2026, in the Image Clothing Company's main site, keeping the elbow joint and the knee joint tracking in line, right? Well, at the hands, we've got fingernails. Oh, we could say this at the feet as well, toenails, right? They could be potentially just not working properly, meaning not cut properly, backing and supporting the fingertips or the toe tips, and this can alter up to the elbow. We've got, well, anything you could place onto the hands, right? Gloves, that's a point, right? Clothing your hands with gloves, affecting up to the elbow joint. But we've got sleeve cuffs sitting on the wrists. All this motion in the wrist just can only happen if there's nothing in its way. If we get the sleeve cuff too long and on the wrist, there's just something in the way of the wrist functioning. And it's in the way of the wrist functioning, right? So anything at all in the hands traveling up to the elbows, this will travel through the two bones in the forearm, the radius and ulna, and not allow those natural rotations to first reside in their neutral positions before we could have internal rotation or external rotation. Just in daily life, we reside in our neutral positions in our bodies, right? Now, from the shoulders down to the elbows, we've got any kind of thing at all, like shoulder seams, like I was discussing earlier, at the edges of our shoulders, needing to mesh as close as we can to the bones at the edges of our shoulders, right? Joints of body parts meshing with joints of material, of clothing. But we've got top seams of our shoulders. They could sit anywhere that they could possibly sit on the shoulders. They could affect down to the elbow joint and not allow it to track in line, okay? We've got collars of tops that need to sit evenly around the circumference of our neck because, well, there's a lot of reasons why. Even opposing musculature from the shoulders comes into the spine of the neck, the cervical spine, the upper third of the back is just the neck, you know, in the center line of the body from left to right. And so if we've got a discrepancy in our collars of our tops and we're not keeping collars centered and we're not focusing on the importance of snug collars, right, which are two video titles under In the Image Clothing Company's main site here, but just focuses in daily life as well, we have to keep our collars centered and snug just for this even activation of musculature at the neck to be able to be there. Otherwise, well, the shoulders connecting to the neck, or to the spine, right? The spine of the neck, the cervical spine. And so, if the shoulder gets altered, its rotations will be altered, and that'll travel down to the elbow joint. So this can be coming from the collar of a top, being imbalanced, things like In the Image Clothing Company's dreaded collar seam modification. Anytime there's a seam, or just something different or discrepant at all you could possibly discuss being in the collar of a top, well, it's not going to sit evenly around the circumference of our neck, and there you go. You've got an imbalance in musculature. We've also got the jaw in the center line of the body. One thing I didn't mention yet in this video that I normally mention more at the beginning, at least I have normally been doing that, is the center line of the body. The sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, and our jaw are things I mentioned as the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, me, Evan Strong, being in the center line of the body, needing to mesh with Earth's vertical centered gravity pull, right? There's no opinion to needing to stay centered. It's Earth's vertical gravity pull. And it's just the human being nothing but a mechanical machine placed onto this rock in space that is our Earth with its vertical gravity pull, pulling down on our bodies all the time. So, the jaw, stabilizing the entire body naturally, it has musculature connecting up to the crown of the head, down to some of these upper ribs, and out to the edges of our shoulders, and the jaw musculature goes through the collars of our tops. So, as you can see here if you can, the collar of my tops will move when I just contract the musculature of my jaw. And that's going to the shoulder. So now we change the shoulder in its natural position. That'll travel down to the elbow joint and not allow the elbow joint to stay neutral if the shoulder's altered, because the shoulder is just the top end of the elbow joint, just as the hand is the bottom end of the elbow joint. But the shoulder is connected directly to the jaw, right? So collars going right around those muscles of the jaw will affect the jaw's positioning, but also just anything in the jaw at all that's altered or changed or not working properly. You know, we discuss eating and drinking with the left hand, meaning non-dominant hand. If you're left-handed, it could be the right hand. But we live in this right-handed world with 85% give or take of human beings being right-handed. We get into a patterning where we're off to our right side, and so we still have a center line to our bodies and a center line to Earth's vertical gravity pull. And so if we don't have our bodies meshing with Earth's vertical gravity pull, which is centered, then, well, it's going to go out to the elbow joints and down to the knee joints, and it can be coming from the jaw. The jaw being imbalanced, well, the jaw connecting directly to the edges of the shoulders. There's actually a video here under In The Image Clothing Company's main site titled "The Jaw is the Shoulder," because the jaw does connect directly to the edge of the shoulders, like I'm saying, with this musculature. And so if we alter the position of the jaw and it's not sitting centered, not only will it affect the shoulder, but then the shoulder is just the top end of the elbow joint, just as the hand is the bottom end of the elbow joint. And so now our elbow joints won't stay in their neutral position from our jaw being imbalanced, right? Just getting off to one side or the other from imbalanced clothing, oversized clothing falling to our right side in this right-handed world. You know, it'll affect the shoulder directly because it's placed onto it, but it'll affect the jaw that then travels to the shoulder because it's directly connected to it. But also, just eating imbalanced, affecting the jaw, it'll travel to the shoulder and down to the elbows. Anything at all, imbalance-wise in the jaw, it's stabilizing the entire body. Not only just the head on top of the body, but the whole thing, down to the tips of the toes and out to the tips of the fingers. So, the elbow joint, right? It can be affected by a lot of things from the top down, starting at the shoulder down, or from the hands up, okay, to the elbow joint. Really starting at the jaw down to the elbow joint, or starting at the tip of the head down to the elbow joint, and really starting at the tips of the toes up to the elbow joint as well. But, you know, no matter what it is, if we don't have our bodies tracking in their only neutral position to begin with, then we can't have a rotation outside of that neutral evenly on either side. And there's only one way the human body could ever work, just being determined by the shape and length of the bones, so we have to reside in our neutral positions. Now, a really big focus is what's happening if the body's not rotating from its neutral first, and then having even rotations on either side. Well, what'll happen is a lot of what I'll discuss here, right? The 10th of May, 2026, In The Image Clothing Company's main site. The video's title here, keeping the elbow joint and the knee joint tracking in line. Well, if we take our elbow joint and we rotate the hands up to the elbows and those two bones in the forearm externally, now when we straighten our elbows, they're just going to go out away from our bodies, okay? Because we've just got two bones, like I'm saying, rotating over each other. And now when you just move this joint, it's just going to go in a different direction, right? We rotate the hands outward, external rotation from the fingertips to the elbow. Now straightening the elbow, the hands go out away from the body. We rotate the hands internal rotation, right, in toward the body at the thumbs, from the fingertips up to the elbow. Now when we straighten the elbows, the hands will come closer to the center line of the body, just because these bones can't hit into each other. And so they have to go somewhere, because they're literally just rotating over top of each other. Like you can see, like I'm showing here, when we put both arms together, we just rotate one entire arm over the other arm. It's just got to go the only way the bones can go without hitting into each other. So that's what I'm saying, and there's no possible opinion to it. There's only one way the human body could ever work. It's just mathematics. You're going to hit bones into each other, and the body will not move if it's not residing in its only neutral positions. So this is the same thing from the foot to the knee. If we're not just in our neutral position, straight forward from the pinky toe, so the knee can just track in line, if we rotate the foot inward, bringing that whole foot in, the lever of the foot off the hinge of the ankle, from the foot up to the knee, and these two bones in the lower legs, the tibia and the fibula. Now when we bend our knee, after rotating the foot inward, or internal rotation from the neutral, the foot will go out away from the body. If we take our foot and we rotate it external, off the hinge of the ankle, out the lever of the foot, now we bend the knee joint, from the foot up to the knee, these two bones in the lower leg, the tibia and fibula, the foot will come across the body, because it's the same thing as in the forearm, where there's just two bones that are rotating over each other. They just have to go somewhere. They can't just track in line if the bones will literally hit into each other. As we discuss here under In the Image Clothing Company, bones of the body, they're essentially like immovable sticks by themselves. They're not going anywhere. They only can go somewhere where they connect, at the joints of the bones, the joining bones. That's how the body moves. Otherwise, yeah, it's just like having a stick. You have to connect it to another stick, in a sense, to have motion where they connect at the joint. And that's what's happening in the elbow and the knees, although we also have rotations playing into this, right? So this video is titled, the 10th of May 2026, In the Image Clothing Company's main side, keeping the elbow joint and the knee joint tracking in line. Well, yeah, I mean, it's got to happen, because that's the big thing to see is, if it's not happening, well, the arms still have to bend if we're going to bend the elbows, and the knees still have to bend if we're going to bend the knees. And so if we don't have our feet just pointing straight forward, out from that pinky toe forward, neutral, when the feet grip these arches, opposing the center line of the human being to keep us vertical, okay, meshing with Earth's vertical gravity pull, these feet have the pinky toe pointing straight forward because we've got different length toes, right? There's a video's title here under In the Image Clothing Company's main side that is different length toes. And we've got these 5 different length toes within the universal human design. And your body can be different, by the way, but only different from something, and there's a universal human design. So you can have an amputation, a deformity, a birth defect, a major surgery, anything at all like this or not like this, that sets your body apart a little bit or quite a bit. Well, only from something can you be set apart. So we have to do all that we can in our own individualistic situations to get as close as we can to the universal human design. Things like Earth's gravity and the center line of our bodies at the spine, and just breathing and taking the entire body to some degree to stabilize in every single breath we take. Breath just being the essence of human life, right? The thing that we can go the least amount of time without before we die. We're expanding and contracting this rib cage in 360 degrees, just meaning all the way around. The rib bones that wrap around the lungs, starting in the center line of the body at the front and at the sternum. The bones of the ribs wrap around either side of the body, the left and right, and connecting to the center line of the body at the spine. And there you go. The rib bones bend, right? They're bones of the body that actually do have motion, and they bend. So what I'm saying is, yeah, the entire body, it's just got to be working in all the ways we can possibly have it within our own individualistic situations as a whole. Residing in its neutrals, just functioning the only way it can. Otherwise, it's hard to breathe, as just one of the things and one of the most simple understandings of just how there's only one way the human body could ever work. So, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying is if we don't have our elbows and our knees just tracking in line, this video's title under the main site of In the Image Clothing Company, the 10th of May 2026, keeping the elbow joint and knee joint tracking in line, however it's exactly titled, but yes, just like that. Right, very, very similar to that, at least. If we alter the feet, you know, shoelaces, for example, you tie a knot around the top of your foot, or just a shoelace technique on top of your foot. That's not the only way the top of the feet are shaped, just the bones, tendons, ligaments, and muscles that make up those gripped arches in the feet that support our entire bodies. Well, you're going to damage the foot's position. There's pronation, supination, internal rotation, external rotation, dorsiflexion, plantar flexion, different length 5 toes, a tripod of gripped arches in the foot, and all these things happening, at least, you know, and all the bones, ligaments, tendons, and muscles in the feet. So if we alter that, it's going to travel up those 2 lower leg bones that have their own rotations, internal and external, okay, the tibia and the fibula, and come to the knee joint. But also just, you know, changing the pronation or the supination and having an excessively collapsed foot arch inward, or a rised, if you will, foot arch outward. That'll travel up to the knee as well, because the knee only tracks in line, but it's being supported by the foot beneath it. And there's a lot of stuff that I just said, plus anything else that I didn't say that's happening in the foot, just going on in the foot. Before we can ever get to the knee, the foot's supporting the knee with Earth's gravity, pulling down on the body above the foot, right? So this is what I'm saying, you know, and this is what I'm saying now, is In the Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique. It's just what we title as In the Image Clothing Company, the only way you can weave a rope across the top of the feet to not alter their only workings. You know, tying shoes evenly over toward the center line of the body, because there's 2 sides of the body. We've got a video here under In the Image Clothing Company's main site titled Left-Handed Knots versus Right-Handed Knots. And essentially we need left-handed knots on our right side and right-handed knots on our left side, just because there's 2 sides to the body. If you alter the feet, it's traveling straight up to the knees, and you don't have a knee joint tracking in line. The knee is just between the foot and the hip, so now it's going to affect the hip, and then traveling up the rest of the body, okay? So there you go, the top of the feet, In the Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique. It's just the only way the top of the feet are shaped. There's no opinion to it. You're just weaving a rope across there, and there you go. There's a lot of context with it, you know, that we give, but look up In the Image Clothing Company's 5-word company name, as I just said there, no spaces between the 5 words. Just find our information, and what we do so much under the gift of video, as I call it, and always will. As of today's date, the 10th of May 2026, we've got, give or take, 560 videos under the main site of In the Image Clothing Company alone as one of our forwards. Videos like this, very thoroughly, deeply discussing the anatomy of the human body and clothing's effect on it, and just how to allow the body to work undisputedly, because it's mathematics. There's no possible opinion to it. You can measure it. Yikes, right? There's only one way the human body could ever work, and we place anything onto it physically, you alter the body, especially tying a knot with a rope, or anything at all you could tie, but just one side over the other, we twist something. That's just what's happening. And we just need things to be even, because the body's even. It has to be, because of Earth's vertical gravity pull, right? So anyway, anything down at the bottom of the knee joint affecting up to the knee will affect the knee's ability to just track in line at the knee joint. So heels on shoes, heels on man-made shoes placed onto God-made feet don't work, right? The feet just work on the ground. The feet only work barefooted, really. It's a video that's at least currently under the main site of In the Image Clothing Company here. But shoes can be wonderful. They're just coverings for the feet that can't alter the only way the feet work. There is only one way the feet work, as another video is titled currently here under In the Image Clothing Company's main site. It's just determined by the shape and length of the bones connecting to each other and the muscles. Only pulling those bones and only going directly in line where they connect at the insertions or the tendons on either end of the bone. Well, either end of the muscle to a bone is what I mean. So what I'm saying is, heels on shoes, you'll be in a constant state of plantar flexion, or pointing of the toes. We've got this neutral, which is the horizontal surface of the earth, and then our feet can lift up dorsiflexion, or the feet can point down, plantar flexion, but the neutral is just the surface of the earth. Or it's the term zero drop in any brand of shoe, because it's the same thing, just flat on the bottom, right? Like I said, in this video, the boots I'm wearing are the Zero Shoes branded Ridgeway model boots. There's a bird over there pecking at my food I left. I have some food over there, and the bird's trying to eat it. It probably will, too, by the time I get over there to stop it. Anyway, so, yeah, Zero Shoes is just a great brand of shoe that incorporates the term zero drop, but just any brand of shoe that incorporates the term zero drop or just flat shoes on the bottom, there you go. You'll affect the knee joint from the bottom end at the feet, and anything that could possibly affect the feet. So what, pant cuffs sitting on the top of the feet, or the top of the ankles? Well, there's not really a top to the ankles in that way, but the feet have to grip these arches and then they rise, right? And then we have the height of a gripped arch. The video's title here under In the Image Clothing Company's main side, the feet grip the ground and they come up because they just grip, just like the hands. We've got these round hand arches. The hands only work around our different length opposable thumbs with the different length 4 fingers. They just mesh evenly around each other. We've got a video's title here under In the Image Clothing Company's main side currently that is the open palm and internal rotation. Well, it's the same thing with the open gripped foot arch and internal rotation. I took a snippet from a video we filmed yesterday here under In the Image Clothing Company's main side, and I posted it under In the Image Clothing Company's main side as well, titled The Visual Example of Feet Gripping Arches Inward, because as they do, they rise. And we grip inward, starting from the outside. You just have to start outside to grip in, and that's from the pinky toe, which is the shortest toe in our different length 5 toes, as the human being's universal design has. But it's got to be on the ground to do that, otherwise the pinky toe has missed the ground. If we lift the heel off the ground, the pinky toe just can't get to the ground, and the foot just collapses outward into external rotation. So anyway, zero drop, the term in any brand of shoe, right? There's no possible opinion to it. There's only one way the human body could ever possibly work. It's mathematics. I couldn't possibly claim it. I discussed it in such depth you couldn't dispute the information. Okay, so this video's title, the 10th of May 2026, In the Image Clothing Company's main side, keeping the elbow joint and the knee joint tracking in line. Well, we've talked about a lot of things at the bottom of the knee joint. And pant cuffs, yeah, if they're sitting on the top of the foot, you're just not going to grip an arch and have it rise. It'll hit into the pant cuff and just collapse the foot arch. And the foot arch has to grip inward and rise just to stabilize the entire body. That's just how it happens, right? A lot of context to that under In the Image Clothing Company videos, but for this video's sake, just focusing on the knee will affect the knee from the pant cuff, because you'll affect how the foot's stabilizing the knee and then traveling up the rest of the body, and then now, yeah, the knee will be not tracking in line if it's not just in an inline position at the bones, stemming from those gripped arches and rolling evenly off the ends of our 5 different length toes in our feet, right? I thought we'd get more light rather than less where I stood here, just the way that I thought the sun was going to move, but I'm pretty sure I'm much more shaded now than I was at the beginning of the video, but that's okay. As I say, it's just another date marked documentation under In the Image Clothing Company and any of the 4 sides that it is at the time. The information's here, it's been delivered, and I'm still going with the video. There's still quite a bit to discuss here for the video's title, keeping the knee joint and the elbow joint tracking in line, right? Titled something just like that. But yeah, the documentation, right? It's been said, it's been documented. It's our insurance policy to a degree, but it also just shows congruency and builds credibility, the longevity of us of In the Image Clothing Company, in this case, us, me, Evan Strong, being the founder. You know, we've been saying the same things since the very founding. Yeah, it just is what it is. You know, we don't have a sales pitch. Truth is truth. There's only one way the human body could ever work. You can measure it mathematically. So, where is it coming from, right? The knee pain, the elbow pain, or just the body pain traveling throughout to the shoulders or the hips or the spine or wherever, you know, jaw pain, neck pain, ankle pain. Anyway, all this can and will come from the elbow joint not tracking in line, or the knee joint not tracking in line either, right? Either one of them will just damage the entire body because the body's a kinetic chain. So that's why this video is a big deal, because these are the hinges. We've got the hips, which is the bottom end of the spine, and then the shoulders, which aren't really the top end of the spine, but they connect to the spine. The top end of the spine is the base of the skull. But, you know, just more simple hinge joints in the body are the elbows and the knees. But just on the low end of them, they have the two bones, the radius and ulna and the forearm, allowing for rotations, or the tibia and the fibula in the lower leg, allowing for rotations, right? But they're fairly simple hinge joints, and if they didn't have rotations, it would just be a simple hinge, and we would just do this. Just march straight forward like a soldier, if you will, unless there's rotations. But here's the focus. I talked about the forearms. Well, I might have talked about the knees as well. Either way, let me hit this point really well. As I was saying with the forearms, if you rotate the hand to the shoulder, from the fingertips to the shoulder, I'll discuss this, but right, it's the 10th of May, 2026, in the Image Clothing Company's main side, keeping the elbow joint and knee joint tracking in line, is this video's title. From the fingertips up to the elbow, if we do internally rotate the arm, bring the thumb in toward the central line of the body, now as we straighten the elbow, the arm wants to come across the body, okay? Like I'm saying, we just have two bones, the radius and ulna, rotating over each other, and they've got to go somewhere. They can only go where the bones don't actually physically hit into each other, okay? So internal rotation at the forearm, with the elbows bent, let's say, right? Keeping elbows at the natural waist, bending the elbows, now with them in their neutral positions, just the whole body working activated as a whole, not being affected by anything physically placed on it, the literal word of clothing the body with anything. Then what happens is, once we do rotate inward at the forearms from the fingertips to the elbow, straightening the elbows, the arms want to come to the center line of the body. If we rotate the fingertips to the elbow in those two bones, the radius and ulna, and the forearms, externally at the thumbs, pointing them outward away from the body, the arms want to go out away from the body just because we've got these two bones rotating over each other, and they have to go somewhere because otherwise they'll hit into each other and just not be able to move. Bones are essentially just immovable sticks by themselves. It's just a stick until it can move, where it joins to another stick, like this video's title, keeping the elbow joint and the knee joint tracking in line. Well, same with the knee. If from the foot to the knee, we could say from the toe tips up to the knee, we've just got the foot pointing straight forward from that neutral pinky toe, right? Then we bend the knee straight. If you rotate the foot inward, the knee bends out away from the body. If you rotate the foot outward, the knee bends in and the foot goes across the body. I did say this already in this video, but what I'm saying is this can't happen because it hits things. You need to walk and clear one foot with the other foot. And if you point one foot out and try to walk, as you bend your knee, it's now in the way of your other leg. Because pointing the foot out from the toe tips up to the knee joint, external rotation in those two bones in the lower leg, the tibia and fibula, now bending the knee, just because there's two bones that can't hit into each other, they have to go somewhere, and rotating the foot externally away from the body, the foot will cross across the body when we bend the knee joint, just because the bones have to have somewhere to go. Okay? I mean, look at this. It's just what it is. It's just a mechanical machine. The human being, there's only one way it could ever possibly work, or you just hit bones into each other. It's mathematics, it's mechanics. It's just that you'll never train the human being. It's impossible. Mathematically, factually, truthfully, I mean, what kind of words can I use It's impossible to get the human being to do anything besides what it does. Watch the rotations. Ready? I go here, neutral at the forearms, neutral at the legs, and I rotate inward and I go just one direction. I rotate outward and I go the opposite direction. Okay? I mean, we just have two bones that are just not hitting into each other, or else they hit into each other. And that's all the body could possibly do. Okay? That's all the body could possibly do, is just what it can do. And so, there's no possible opinion. I mean, there's only one way the human body could ever work. You've just got people that have gone to school, and I get the beeping of the sounds surrounding, right? But longer than a lot of people have been alive, like 10 plus years of schooling people have to try to understand the anatomy of the human body, the way it works and functions. The construction noise picks up right when I start speaking so real. It doesn't matter how much you think you know about the human being, it is a mechanical machine. You will either rupture a tendon, or separate bones at the ligaments, break a bone, or pull a muscle, or something like this, if you try to get the human being to do anything besides the only measurable mathematical degrees of motion in the hinge and lever system of the human body that it has, determined by the shape and length of the bones connecting directly to each other, the only way they mesh at the ends of the bones through ligaments, and then the muscles pulling only and directly in line just where they connect to the bones through their insertions of the tendons. It's impossible. It always has been, and it always will be, to train the human being to get it to do anything. It only does what it does since you were a child. It's what it is. It's a human being. It's like the animals. They're just what they are. But, as the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, I don't have a claim. I stand here, I show my body working. I discuss the anatomy of the body very, very, very thoroughly. And I understand and explain why it's not working. There is no possible opinion to this or sales pitch. The only thing physically placed onto the body, the literal wording of clothing, is damaging the body if it's not working the only way the body works. Baseline, staying centered, fitting correct, again, joints of material of clothing meshing with joints of body parts, and being made in all the ways we can from 100% natural materials. And there's so much more to it than this. I mean, we talk about so many things because all of the possible little discrepancies or differences in anything at all, very small and slight in clothing, day in and day out. You're sleeping in it, your waking life is within it, you're doing everything you're ever doing in your life in and through your clothing. It is impossible for your body to just mechanically function normally. Like I'm saying, this video's title on the 10th of May 2026, keeping the elbow joint and knee joint tracking in line. It's impossible if there's something just in the way. You're just going to have things hit into other things, meaning the things that are hitting into something else is your body parts, like your arms swinging when you walk, hitting into your oversized top as you walk. Okay? I mean, it's not an opinion. I don't have a sales pitch. I don't have some kind of conditional thing. It's literally every body who has one and everyone who has a body. Let's watch this again. The rotations. We either bend neutral or we rotate one way and the body just bends not neutral. We bend neutral or we rotate the other way and the body just bends not neutral. We've got internal rotation and external rotation, and it's just what it is. It's impossible for the body to do anything else besides just what it does. It's impossible. Oh my heavens. It's frustrating because there's so much false information out there, But it's as I say, we just don't know what we don't know, and we can't be held accountable for what we don't know. That's not just as I say, Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. That's what God says. We read scriptures of Jesus Christ, and that's what he tells us, because he's all-knowing and we don't know just about anything at all. Even the most knowledgeable human being on the planet knows just about nothing. God knows everything. God designed the human being. There's no possible opinion to it just growing for itself. We can't try to approach getting it to do something. It's impossible. I mean, I cannot possibly even fathom the truth of this, but it's true. Just meaning, you have anyone and everyone across the entire planet Earth trying to approach the human being in all sorts of different ways. There's no possible way to approach the human being. You just understand how it functions and allow it to work, right? Our slogan here under In the Image Clothing Company's main side, allowing the body to work. There's a video title here under In the Image Clothing Company's main side that is anatomy understanding versus fitness advice. And that's what I'm saying is you just reside in your neutral positions and your body's got rotations from there. You just reside in your neutral positions and your body's got rotations from there. It's impossible for the body to do anything else ever besides just residing in its neutral positions, because if not, well, the whole body's damaged. Now I try to walk with my foot sticking out at a difference in rotation in my knee than the neutral, right? This video is titled the 10th of May 2026 In the Image Clothing Company's main side, keeping the elbow joint and knee joint tracking in line. Well, yeah, if I just walk with my knees tracking straight forward because my feet are pointing straight forward and because my hips are straight forward, then I can walk and my legs don't hit each other. But if I point one foot out, I try to walk, my knee bends across my body and it hits into my other leg. Well, my foot does, of the side of my body where the knee was bending, with the foot sticking out in external rotation. It's just what it is. It's impossible for it to do anything else besides just track in line. And it just will. God designed the body to work within our own individualistic situations, but you place clothing on it, you damage the body. If the clothing's not working for the body, the only way the body works, right? So, yeah, I mean, from the feet up to the hips, but now at the hips, let's say we twist the entire pelvis structure, or the hips, with a rope, you know, tied one side over the other. Now we twist the hips, and now rotations come from the hips down to the knee joint, and it's the same thing. Because the hips twist, okay? Wherever your foot's going, your knee's gonna bend. You know, your foot points forward, your knee bends forward. Your foot points across your body, your knee bends and your foot goes out away from your body. Your foot points out away from your body and your knee bends and the foot goes across the body. It's just the same on either side of the body because there's a center line to the human being and it meshes with Earth's vertical centered gravity pull. You'll never change the way the body can move unless you change the bones, which you don't do that. Unless it's some very specific surgical procedure, but the rest of the body's still there. The body can only ever possibly work all together. I can't walk over to somewhere else from right here without my entire body coming with me. Any part of the body that's connected. And so if something's just not working properly, you know, I can't just have the rest of my body continue to work properly because it's all connected to everything else. Anyway, I know I get so worked up. I understand, by the way, my passion and my disgust at times and my frustration with the world and you know, false information, but also just, yeah, the damage that's happening. Because I know the extent of the, you know, effect. You know, I understand what it is and what it can be. My own personal body being in such deep chronic patterning for years, you know, I mean, I was tying both of my shoes unevenly, both feet to the right side of my body, until I was about 24 years old. So now I'm walking around like this until I'm about 24 years old, with my right foot sticking out. It's just a rope around the foot. It just rotates the entire body to the tip of the head and the tips of the fingers. But then again, right, that's the point with this video's title, is keeping the elbow joint and knee joint tracking in line. You alter the foot, you're going to alter the knee. It's just what it is. It's just a machine. There's no approach. It's impossible to have one to the human being. I'm done with this video. I'm not worked up in a bad way. It's just, it's a good thing. It's good that I'm able to deliver this beautiful information. I will be doing this the rest of my entire lifetime. Again, Evan Strong, as the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, as our team members come onto our team and our team builds, if it fluctuates where it does, ideally not so much, right? We want a really tight-knit, good group of God-fearing, nature-loving, poodle-loving human beings, you know, good people who just want to allow their bodies to work and just serve God and help people. Anyway, the point is, though, as our team builds, you can see what we're discussing better, I guess. Maybe if someone else delivers the information, or just as more time progresses, you'll never find out that I had some claim, some miracle fix. No, it's always the exact same. It's a mechanical machine, the human being. You'll never possibly get it to do anything besides just what it can do. But it can't do that with something physically placed on it. The literal word of clothing, just not allowing it to function if it's in the way. You know, so yeah, I mean, we talk about where clothing sits very clearly. I'm going to mention it in this video. I just mention it where I do because we talk about it so often. It's in so many places under the 5-word company name of In The Image Clothing Company. But we talked about the shoes, you know, and there's a lot to it. The importance of the proper height shoes, the importance of the proper height socks. These are video titles under In The Image Clothing Company's main side. Because socks, let's say you rotate your sock, you rotate the bones in your lower leg, and now your knee joint doesn't track in line. There's only one neutral to the body. It's determined by rolling off the ends of our 5 different length toes evenly to share the weight, and traveling up the entire leg with this slight outward curvature, even up until we get to the top of the upper leg bones, the femurs. They come up and then in toward the center line of the body a little bit, and then they connect into the hips, the acetabulum of the hips and the femoral head. It comes up and in, starting from the feet, rolling slightly in, if you will, but just forward from those pinky toes, straight forward, neutral, with a different length 5 toes. Anyway, there's just only one way the body works, ever. It's impossible to have an approach to it. And it's crazy. That's why I'm so worked up in the times that I am over things like this, is because people think they know what they're doing. And people will have people pay them to come into their clinics, and, you know, weeks after weeks or months after months, even years, whatever it is, they're trying to train people's bodies, or they're trying to give them all sorts of exercises to do to get their bodies to work. It's impossible. It's mathematics. I couldn't even have a claim on it. Take it to your mathematics professor or your physics professor. Physics is a form of mathematics, but take it to your mechanical engineer, the human body and just its functioning, and show them a diagram of all the bones of the skeletal system of the human being and how they connect. It is mathematics. It's impossible to get the body to do anything besides just what it does. But if you're wearing heels on shoes, if you're wearing ropes around your waists, you know, a drawstring twisting your entire body, now you've got the knee joint in between. If you've got sleeve cuffs on your wrist, or you've got shoulder seams oversized at the shoulders, now you've got the elbow joint in between. For this video's title specifically focusing on the elbow joint and the knee joint, anything from the hips down or the feet up is the knee. Anything from the shoulder down or the hand really up is the elbow. You know, and the feet need texture to grip. We live on this unnaturally slippery, flat, modern man-made flooring. There's always texture in nature. For the feet to grip the way that the hands actually grip and grab around things, same with the hands. We live in this unnaturally flat product design, modern man-made 2026 and going forth. Today's the 10th of May though, 2026. This is In The Image Clothing Company's main side. The video's title is Keeping the Elbow Joint and Knee Joint Tracking in Line. Anyway, what I'm saying is, oh my heavens. Yeah, right, these hand arches, they correlate with the rounded feet gripped arches. And if we're not holding things that are naturally textured and rounded, just like everything in nature has some sort of texture to it, but we're living in this modern man-made world with all of these excessively flat things, and our different length fingers don't wrap around our different length opposable thumb, just the only way the bones are shaped, then we've got damage up to the elbow. You know, if the feet can't grip textured earth, but we're standing on this slippery, flat, unnaturally man-made flooring, we've got effect now from the feet up to the knee joint. You know, stretch in clothing, it only exists as of tens of years ago from today's date, the 10th of May 2026. This video's title, under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company, keeping the elbow joint and knee joint tracking in line. Well, stretch in clothing, it just goes the opposite direction of the only way muscles work. Muscles only pull, stretch goes away. You know, so never stretch in clothing. That's a huge focus, with the importance of 100% natural materials and all the ways we could possibly have our clothing be made out of that. There was only natural materials ever to exist until human beings took natural materials and undid them. We have unnatural materials, but matter cannot be created or destroyed, so there's only natural things ever to do anything with anyway. Everything always decomposes back to natural that we make unnatural. It just takes time. Anyway, there's only one way the human body could ever work. I don't have a possible claim. Yeah, it's proofed. Proofed. I don't even know what to say. See, the words it's just what it is. It's just truth. I don't know what other words to use. You know, as I'm delivering this information, there's so many people trying to claim they know how the body works or how to get it to, but mathematics don't lie. You know, it's just a machine. You just have to understand it as it is. And we have to start from it being unaltered. And that's the goal here, right? Natural. On all four sides of In The Image Clothing Company, how the body naturally was before any unnatural, man-made thing, like all this construction noise you can hear around me. There's always natural earth until we change it as human beings. There's always the natural functioning body of the babies and the toddlers until they go through life and get altered to an unnatural state of being. And then the body's just damaged, you know, from its only neutral positions. There's only one way the human body could ever possibly work. So anyway, we give a lot of information on how to get out of chronic patterning here under In The Image Clothing Company. I mean, that's the focus. Yeah, right? Either you never get into patterning to begin with, or you have to get out of it, as I've done, you know, going before. And you can see, right? I mean, documented and date marked under the gift, as I call it, of video. You can watch my body's visual and physical transformation. I couldn't make it up. And how's it happening then? Because it's permanent. You'll see my body continue to work for the rest of my life, and I don't have a sales pitch. Truth is truth. In The Image Clothing Company, God is the truth. He's the designer of our bodies, and we just don't have a say. Right? Another name for Jesus Christ is the truth. The truth, the way, and the life. This is God. The one who pumps the heart in our bodies, even when we're asleep. We can't approach the human being to get it to do anything. It's impossible. It's impossible. And I'm just going to stand here and pout about it as often as I do for the rest of my life. Anyway, there you go. There's a lot more I could say in this video, you know, as I say, where it's the case in videos under In The Image Clothing Company, just to give context on what I'm discussing here. But clothing, right? Pants, they sit at our natural waist, just because that's where we bend side to side at the spine, like I was saying earlier in this video, above the hip bones but below the lowest ribs. The 10th of May 2026, In The Image Clothing Company's main side, the importance of keeping the elbow joint and knee joint tracking in line. This video's title. Well, yeah, above the hip bones but below those lowest ribs, that's where our pant waistline sits. But we discuss it sitting just very slightly higher in the front than in the rear, because the pelvis, from posteriorly tucking underneath us to anteriorly rotating away from us in a sense, just the way the hips already bend, there's a neutral. It's the same as the bottom of the feet. It's the surface of the planet Earth. And so, you know, you got to start with no heels on your shoes. You've got to start with your pant waistline just at least horizontal. But if we keep it slightly higher in the front, then we do what we can to ensure it doesn't fall lower in the front, just bending our body excessively. Because we've got even mathematical opposing bends in the body to stay vertical, bottom to top on Earth's vertical gravity pull. The ankles bend backward, opposing Earth's vertical gravity pull. The knees bend forward above them, opposing Earth's vertical gravity pull. The hips bend backward, opposing Earth's vertical gravity pull. The low back bends forward, opposing Earth's vertical gravity pull. The mid back bends backward, opposing Earth's vertical gravity pull. And the upper back bends forward. It's just the neck or the cervical spine. This is all opposing Earth's vertical gravity pull. It would truly have to be a mathematical opposing even bend, back, forth, when Earth's vertical gravity pull is just straight up and down. Otherwise, we'd fall over. This is what I'm saying. There's just no opinion to it. You can't train it. It's impossible. It always has been, and it always will be. It's nothing to do with me, Evan Strong, other than I understand this very, very thoroughly, and I explain it very, very thoroughly. I could claim to understand anything. I'd put it into words, I'd document it under the gift of video, and there's no possible dispute. There's a universal human design, and it's about gravity as one of the biggest things. It's just the shape and length of the bones. Alright, so anyway, tops, right? Top seams of our shoulders sit evenly behind the peak of the shoulders, just right behind the peak of the shoulders up there. The shoulders will follow the shoulder seams of our tops just because of gravity, if nothing else. But also, the other end of this clavicle or collarbone, starting at the top of the sternum in the center line of the body, coming up and out and becoming one of the three bones of the shoulder, it is where our top seams sit right behind. And so, you know, there you go. It just is what it is. Also, the upper trapezius, the muscle that vertically supports the shoulders from the top of the shoulder blade or the scapula on the rear of the body up to the base of the skull and the cervical spine, the spine of the neck. It just inserts back behind the peak of the shoulder, right behind the peak of that collarbone. That upper trapezius connects to the scapula or the shoulder blade, right? So collarbone called clavicle, shoulder blade called scapula, okay? We've just got the body doing only what it does, and it could never possibly do anything else. And so, you know, I talked about the edge seams of the tops, just sitting as close as we can to the edges of our shoulders, because we've got joints of material of clothing and joints of body parts meshing. But like I say, you know, we get into it in depth because, you know, sleeve cuffs and pant cuffs, when we're talking about the elbow joint, well, yeah, you know, keeping short sleeves short and the importance of even short sleeves, a video title here under In The Image Clothing Company's main side. Well, those are two separate video titles actually, but currently those are videos titles under In The Image Clothing Company's main side here. The short sleeves just need to be up off the elbow joint so the elbow joint can bend. You know, this video is titled the 10th of May 2026. Under In The Image Clothing Company's main side, keeping the elbow joint and the knee joint tracking in line. Well, directly on the elbow joint could be short sleeves. So they've got to be above the elbow joint and evenly on both sides of the body, okay? But then also, when it comes to shorts, short length pants, they could be directly on the knee joint. So they need to be above the knee joint and evenly on both sides, you know? So we've got things like rotated seams in clothing. You rotate the body, and now you're just going to have differences in the knee joint and the elbow joint because you've rotated the entire body. You know, let's say like from the center line of it at the spine. But let's say, right, you've got rotated seams in clothing. In modern 2026, we've got robots that stitch our clothing, and you know, we've got rotations and seams where the seams, like the side seams of our bodies, that need to be at the sides of our bodies, you know, they'll come down the sides of our tops or the sides of our pants, and then they'll pin them twisted at the cuffs of the pants or at the shirt tail or at the sleeve cuffs. You know, instead of having this nice even seam coming down, there's a rotation often. And whatever way it's rotating, if they're both going backward or both going forward, or one's going right and one's going left, one's going left and one's going right, you'll just damage the body. The body's just got its own rotations within its neutral positions inside of our clothing. Like I'm saying, everything we do in our life, we're doing it in and through our clothing. It's just the literal wording of the only thing physically placed on our bodies, clothing, right? In the Image Clothing Company's main side, the 10th of May 2026, keeping the elbow joint and knee joint tracking in line. Well, if you're rotating your whole torso with rotated seams, now you've just got the arms sitting differently from left to right because the center line of the body is twisted, like at the spine or at the hips. And so, you know, now if you twist the spine, you twist the hips, but if you twist the hips, you twist down to the feet. And if the feet are twisted, supporting the entire body, the arms are twisted, and now everything's just altered, right? So, rotated seams, you know, in the Image Clothing Company's rotated seam modification, another one of the free modifications we give of the many in clothing that's just needed. We just give modifications that are needed. You buy a clothing design from someone and it just doesn't work the only way your body does, your body will be damaged, you know. So things like zippers, you know, in the Image Clothing Company's pant zipper modification, or just anywhere there's zippers in clothing, if there's modifications needing to be done. Like I'm saying, a lot of little tiny things in the body can become huge things. Even things like keeping short sleeves short. Well, I said that, but what I mean is shoelaces short. The importance of short shoelaces. That's the video's title under In the Image Clothing Company's main site here. You notice in these Zero Shoes branded Ridgeway model boots, no affiliation with them, right? As of this video, at least on the 10th of May 2026 from In the Image Clothing Company, or maybe one day. But anyway, no matter what shoes it is, keeping the short sleeves, I said short sleeves again, that's huge. Keeping short sleeves short and even. Okay, the importance of even short sleeves as well. But shoelaces, keeping them short so that we can have our feet just right next to each other without the shoelace hitting the other foot as we walk, because that'll damage our bodies. You know, if there's a gap between our legs, then the knee just can't track in line right next to the other leg. It'll have to move off to the side, and now we just go into external rotation and an anterior rotation of the pelvis and an excessive curve in the spine and the knee and the whole body up to the jaw, stabilizing the entire body. The tip of the head, the tips of the fingers, the entire body will be damaged if the shoelaces are too long and it's hitting your other foot as you walk. But the point is, for this video's title, truly, yeah, right, keeping the elbow joint and the knee joint tracking in line, the 10th of May 2026, in the Image Clothing Company's main side, yes, yes, and a third, yes, right, you just got too long of shoelaces and your feet will stick apart from each other, and now you're not going to have your knees tracking in line. They're going to go across your body like this, unless you just take your pelvis and rotate it to compensate instead, just because the way the femurs come up and into the hips. You know, you can either have external rotation at your feet and a neutral pelvis, or an anterior rotated pelvis and feet pointing forward. Really, actually, if they're not both working. One has to compensate for the other, like I'm saying, the bottom end or the top end of the knee. Just because you've got too long shoelaces, you just can't have your feet go right next to each other as you walk to allow that knee joint to track in line. The feet will try to clear the shoelace, but now you're going to have an external rotation happen from the foot to the knee and those two bones in the lower leg, the tibia and the fibula, and now you just can't walk with your feet crossing your body unless you change your pelvis too, to just make room for your feet to clear each other by rotating the pelvis down in the front and up in the rear. An anterior rotation of the pelvis just kind of allows you to have your feet go next to each other while they're pointing out. Otherwise, if the pelvis was neutral, the feet would literally just hit the legs. If the feet point out into external rotation, just trying to clear the excess room that's needed from too long of shoelaces, the arches in the feet, they grip inward, starting from the outside, like I'm saying, opposing the center line of the human being and keeping us vertical on Earth's vertical gravity pull. But they grip in and really right to each other to open up the whole body with these different length 5 toes, from the toes up to the top of the femurs, coming in to the acetabulum of the hip, right? The top of the upper leg bone, it comes up and in a little bit to the center line of the body. And so if our shoelaces are just too long, as one of the things, in clothing that'll damage your body. Holy cow. In the Image Clothing Company's main side, the 10th of May 2026. This video's title, right? Really, the title is, and this is correlating with it, keeping the elbow joint and the knee joint tracking in line. Well, yeah, spoken by me, Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. Something this small is huge. Just having short enough shoelaces that when you're walking, you can just keep your knee joint tracking in line, and you don't have to try to clear your shoelaces. The feet arches will collapse, pronate down, point outward, just because there's different length 5 toes that need to grip inward, and they get closer together as they do this. Yep, right, so anyway, and then what I just said a couple minutes ago there will happen. Yeah, but the point is, you'll just change the way the knee bends, and it'll bend across the body if the knee can't just be straight down from the top of the femur, with that slight outward curvature from the different length 5 toes up to the hips, just in the shape and length of the bones of the body. This is weird. It's weird for me. I mean, I'm just saying this stuff like it's casual, but this is this is eternal truth. It's permanent. It's universal. Within the universal human design, there's only one way it works. Anyone who's ever wearing shoes, yeah, just too long of shoelaces are gonna change the way your knee tracks, and it's not gonna track in line. It's gonna go across your body, but you'll hit your legs into each other, so then it travels up to the upper end of the knee, and the pelvis compensates too. It's just the way the femur comes up and into the hip. It comes up and inward toward the center line of the body, so when we anteriorly rotate the pelvis, lower in the front and higher in the rear, it kind of like makes room between the feet if the arches of the feet can't grip. It's just how it is, and I could explain that more thoroughly, but that's great for context for this video on the 10th of May 2026. Anyway, I mean, same way, it's just like an oversized top, you know, you just got too wide of a top right here between your elbow and your side. We talk about this, you know, mind the gap, an episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. But yeah, we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ under In the Image Clothing Company podcast. We're on episode 204 as of today's date, the 10th of May 2026. You don't have to be religious or believe in anything, but we're all human beings, the same thing, placed on the same earth, designed by the same God. So a lot of what I discussed was just minding the gap between us and God that can kind of just sneak into our lives. But also minding the gap between things like the elbow joint and the natural waist, you know, just the upper arm bone and the rib cage. You've got an oversized top there. This is something we've discussed a lot under In the Image Clothing Company, but going along with this video's title, that's exactly going to do what we don't want in this case, right? What's not good for the body is the point. Like I'm saying, keeping the elbow joint and the knee joint tracking in line, this video's title under In the Image Clothing Company's main side on the 10th of May 2026. Well, if the elbow joint can't just swing right next to the side just because there's material in the way, and I kind of discussed this earlier in the video as well, but it's just going to change the way that the elbow can move, because it's just got to try to move around excess material in its way. And even side seams of tops, to a degree, they can do this. There's different ways you can stitch side seams of tops, you know, and that's what I'm saying, is that needs to be very intentional anyway. But any kind of gap you've got between your own rib cage and your upper arm bone, your humerus, or your own natural waist and your elbow joint, which is the humerus meeting the radius and ulna in the forearm, it just changes the way the elbows work, but then that'll change the way the knees work as well. It just goes throughout the whole body. The feet stabilizing the entire body, you change the way the elbows can track, and they're not just tracking over the feet gripping arches, and so now the feet can't grip arches. I mean, the body just goes where it goes, meaning anywhere any of the body goes, it all goes. Man, bro, sister, woman, you know, whoever you are, whatever it is, I don't care. I don't care about just about anything in life, honestly, in a proper, healthy way. I just want the truth, you know, and there's only one way the human body works. If this is your first video under In The Image Clothing Company, just know this is where your information is coming from. From me, Evan Strong, the founder, just meaning the understanding. This is the depth of understanding, is this type of explanation, this thorough of explanation, where I'm not sitting here reading from some book claiming I know the anatomy of the human being. I can visually show it, I can verbally discuss it, and yeah, we just really know the reasons. I couldn't make it up because you can do it in your own life. You know, you can look at your clothing and be like, oh shoot, yeah, my clothing isn't centered, and maybe you thought it was. And then you're like, oh shoot, yeah, this part of my body is lacking rotation or just functionality. And Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, or just In The Image Clothing Company in general, right? But coming from the founder, it's not about me, but I just want to make it clear why you listen to me out of anyone. I really understand this. Maybe you're saying, oh yeah, he was saying, is the point, right? That this is a fairly universal patterning, and it might be happening to me, and all of a sudden you realize your body's in the same patterning because we live in a right-handed world, because we've got products shipped across the entire earth in modern day, 2026 in this case, today's the 10th of May, but going forth, you know, in ways we didn't have the possible technology to do in the past. We've got fairly universal clothing imbalances, not only just clothing design, but any imbalance in design gets shipped across the entire earth in ways it just never could have possibly before. We've got universally designed products, and so we just get into patternings regardless of clothing that are just right-handed, you know, and we just discuss this across the entire earth because within the universal human design, it works the same no matter where you're from or who you are, you know. So removing all tags from clothing, one of those things we discuss. Okay, tags are just labeling put into clothing. It only started to happen just tens of years ago from today's date, when these unnatural, artificial, and synthetic materials, synonyms with fake, got invented, right? Synonyms with fake, this is in our food, this is in our clothing, it's in the things we interact with in life, just fake things, man-made, that no human being ever had to deal with before we invented them, and it affects our entire lives. Like I'm saying, with our slogan being allowing the body to work here under In The Image Clothing Company's main side, it's about everything. You know, a lot of the focus is nature. We'll do a lot for the environment and in nature, in-person events and things like this, and with the poodles as well, and In The Image Clothing Company poodles, you know. Shoot, there's so much to say, there's so much going on here. I mean, I have built a beautiful foundation with this. The reason the videos are so long is because I am doing this the rest of my entire lifetime. There's an episode of In The Image Clothing Company's podcast. There's an episode of In The Image Clothing Company podcast titled I'm In This For Life, spoken by me, Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. So if you've got a question or wondering, like, is anyone really going to sit through all of this long of a video to find the information? Well, I don't know. I mean, sometime, maybe 500 years down the road from now. I'm not in this thing for some kind of like quick success or something. I'm speaking universal eternal truth that is not my choice. I'm documenting permanent, we could say fixes, but just reasons why these things are happening. It applies to every human across the entire planet Earth, and even those in a space station somewhere or whatever, right? Just meaning any human being to ever live. It is what it is. Even within our differences, there's still this baseline universal human design structure, even through the surrounding sounds. So what I'm saying is, it just is what it is. I couldn't claim it, right? Truth is truth. Clothing, the only fix to human beings' physical problems. Well, really the fix would be to never wear clothing, to never physically place anything onto the body we could label as the literal word of clothing the body with anything. That'd be the fix. But we wear clothing, we need it. We stay modest with it. We stay safe from the elements with it. You know, In The Image Clothing Company clothing will always stay centered, fit correct, and be made in all the ways we can from 100% natural materials, as well as all the other things we just, you know, put intentionality on. But do everything clothing, simple, light, brandless on the exterior, just able to let your body work no matter what you're doing in life, because your body always works the exact same. There's a video's title here under In The Image Clothing Company's main site that is the body in waking versus sleeping life. It's the exact same thing. Sleeping versus waking is the same thing. The body's about a position determined by the shape and length of the bones. The musculature always has to come secondary to the bones. The muscles attached to the bones just to stabilize or move the body there has to be bones there first. It's about a position. All the muscles do is determine the position of the bones that already remain and always remain, just meaning already are there, right? So I'm done. I said I was done, what, like 40 minutes ago? I don't know how long it's been, but maybe. It's probably a couple hour long video. I don't know exactly as of now, but whatever, dude. Whatever, meaning it doesn't matter unless it does. And this stuff will change your life, so don't believe me. As I say, right, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, any of our team members under In The Image Clothing Company with any of our information, even our poodles, if you will. Don't believe us, because truth is truth. That's what I'm saying. I couldn't possibly discuss stuff this thoroughly, though, and have it be some kind of approach that might work. It's the truth. It's mathematically measurable. It's just a human being. It's just hinges, levers, and rotations. So we just can't alter the feet, or it travels to the knees. We can't alter the hips, or it travels to the knees. We can't alter the knees directly without damaging the body, okay? We can't alter the hands, or it travels to the elbow. We can't alter the shoulder, or it travels to the elbow. We can't alter the elbow directly without damaging the body, all right? And anything in between, from the jaw, you know, or the tip of the head, the fingertips, the toe tips, all throughout. These simple hinge joints, without their rotations, the elbows and the knees, they just have to continue to track in line, but then they also have these rotations, both internal or external, that really play into the functioning of the entire body big time. And so that's this video's title on the 10th of May 2026. Keeping the elbow joint and the knee joint tracking in line. In line just means in this neutral position. When we talk about chronic patterning in the body, it's just a pattern of working, like walking. We lift the foot up and put the foot down. This is a pattern. We swing the leg forward and swing the leg back. This is a pattern, tracking in line. We swing the arms forward and back when we walk. This is a pattern, in line. And if we change the rotations, now it's not a proper pattern. This is a chronic, damaging patterning in the body from its only working position. It's impossible to get the human being to do anything besides what it does. Oh my heavens. You just can't know what you're talking about. Neither can I, really, meaning it's just God's truth. I understand it personally, but when I say I know what I'm talking about, as the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, it's what I'm talking about that already remains, that I just know and understand. We can all know it. We can all understand it. Truth is apart from all of us. I don't have any kind of information out of my own self here. My body is just something that I can understand. Your body is something, well, I can understand anatomy-wise as well, because there's a universal human design. But your body specifically and individually is something that shouldn't feel far away from you. It shouldn't feel distant. It shouldn't feel foreign. We should understand our own bodies and get in touch with them, because they only do what they do. And we've had the same body this entire life, and we will have the same body this entire life. So thank you for this, God, truly. But also thank you for checking this out, if you have, because, well, it applies to you, and that's great. Any information we discuss under In The Image Clothing Company with allowing the body to work, because there's a universal human design, but also, you know, it helps us as a company if you're supporting what we're doing here. What we're doing here is allowing the body to work under our main side. We've got In The Image Clothing Company music, you know, we show the sizing and setup of guitar to not alter the body, keeping things like that neutral wrist straight out from the outside of the forearm and down and out that pinky finger is the neutral to the wrist coming up or down. You know, and the rounding in our hands, and rhythm and poetry, lyricism, spoken word, singing, guitar playing, music geared around the gospel of Jesus Christ with the messages. We've got a lot of series where we do under In The Image Clothing Company. Check it out if you'd like to. You don't have to be religious, man, but truth is truth. Yeah, I mean, there's no religion to God. You can use religion to get to God, or you can use science to get to the truth, but God is the truth. I mean, there's just life. There's just what exists and how does it. Well, someone put it all here. I couldn't take credit for it, you know, and you couldn't without being delusional, so God, you know, I mean, there's no opinion to truth at all. It couldn't possibly be, because something either exists or it doesn't. If it exists, it's there. That's it. The body, and it only does what it does. It's determined by the shape and length of the bones. So here's the thing. fingernails and toenails, all the way fully to the tips of the fingers and toes, backing and supporting them, cut relatively flat on the tips so we can stay in that neutral position. If I mention that in this video, then great. If not, great as well. Thank you. Hey, Dante, up. Good. You shake, shake. A good dog. Yay, dog. Yee-hee. Good. It's a good boy. So yeah, in the Image Clothing Company poodles, you know, anything placed onto a dog, it's not actual dog shirts necessarily, but just the literal word of clothing is what we discuss here under In the Image Clothing Company. Collars, leashes, harnesses, bandanas, slip leads, anything placed onto a dog, it's the same thing. It can alter their bodies big time. The dogs get into chronic patterning as well. And so, there you go. You know, a lot of what we do is that stuff. Thank you, and goodbye. St. George, Utah, here we are, based for life. As I said, we would be. Yeah. Yikes. I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm trying to show you that I don't know what in the world I'm doing most of the time, but then it works. If I'm doing all I can to align what I'm doing with Jesus Christ, being just as... Whoa. Being just as sinful and imperfect as I am, you know. Things just only work if they work, and they only work if God does them, really. I mean, we don't have a way to even do anything unless God gives us the ability to even have a body. Thank you. Oh, it didn't stop yet. Well, anyway, yeah, in-person events, you know, like I'm saying, a lot of things we'll do is for the environment. Here in the state of Utah specifically is our focus location-wise. United States of America, down here in St. George, Utah, specifically, you know, within Utah. Good doggy, a good dog, good, you crazy man. But yeah, anyway, check it out, hang out with us, you know. We'll have good dog products too. Wow, he opened his mouth. You know, collars, leashes, harnesses, similar things like this, just to not alter the dog. That's what I'm saying, you know. Staying centered, fitting correct, being made in all the ways we can from 100% natural materials in the Image Clothing Company's dog products, or in the Image Clothing Company's clothing, you know. Well, here's the thing, you know. Thank you. I don't know. Maybe we're not done yet, Dante. I don't know what else to say in this video, but it didn't stop, and I feel like it's very intentional. So, you know, just everything we do in life, like I'm saying, we're doing it in and through our clothing. All the same approaches, you know, not that it's an approach, but all the same things we discuss for human beings, we do for our dogs as well. You know, standing, sitting, walking, eating, breathing, sleeping, hydration, everything you could possibly say the dog is doing, just being this life form. It's just a domesticated, once wild animal living in our modern man-made world we place onto God's natural earth. A lot of hidden dangers for the dogs, things potentially very damaging to the dogs. Slippery, flat flooring, you know, it's damaging the dogs as well as us as human beings with their feet, if and where it is. Just feeding dogs naturally, all of these things, you know, we really discuss. We'll do in-person events. It's hot, so be careful. I mean, if you ever come to in the Image Clothing Company events here in Utah, in St. George, Utah specifically, we're in the Mojave Desert here. It's a true desert. Hot. It's probably about 90-something degrees Fahrenheit today. I'm in 3 tops right now. 2 of them are long sleeves, but it just is what it is right now. But just meaning, yeah, you know, we'll do, like I'm saying, things for the environment. And like I've said before and made clear, you know, documented and date marked under, especially things like in the Image Clothing Company podcast, you know, don't think we started to do things that were different than we were doing at the beginning and like changed who we are as in the Image Clothing Company as time progresses. You know, doing things for the environment, like in-person events, you'll see what I mean by that. You know, just stay up to date with us if you will. Just look up our 5-word company name anywhere you can find us, In the Image Clothing Company, no spaces between the 5 words. But a big focus is you would never really have to purchase In the Image Clothing Company clothing. We're not here for sales. We're just here to live life and stuff. Ah, shoot. You know, free modifications in clothing, that's a huge deal. So anyway, I'm going to go drink some water. It's hot, you know, get something hydrating at least, more so than water. Thank you and goodbye. Man, you gotta be kidding me. I'm not upset about it in the slightest. It just didn't stop, and I just want to make sure that I'm not leaving something out that I should be saying. But good. Good, Doug, good. Good. Okay, I'm just gonna cut it, but that's great. Thank you and goodbye. If I can get it to stop. We've said everything we need to. It's not stopping. It's really not stopping. Holy cow. It's hot, I'll tell you what, in these tops that I'm wearing. Is this thing still working fine? This device is pretty hot too. Anyway, man, there's a lot of story, a lot of there's some good context, you know. Shout out to the wagon, DSG, whatever that is, but yeah, there's a lot of good context I'll give as time progresses, you know, how things have looked around this time here in St. George, Utah, like May, you know, like I'm saying, today's the 10th of May, the end of April into May though here, and then, you know, going forth as well. But Dante and I's current situations here, and how things are, what they are here, how we are here, you know, we just moved here about 15 days ago to St. George, Utah. That's been quite the process of just faith and praying to God, to Jesus Christ direct, having a lot of crazy struggles along the way, but just knowing we need to do it. And again, you just see the truth of what we're doing here as time progresses. I don't have any kind of claims trying to make things be something that they're just not, or any better than they are either. You know, yeah, it's been crazy. We've been homeless, besides just 6 days that we had, well, 6 nights in a motel room. We're homeless for 5 nights. We had 6 nights in a hotel room, and now we've been homeless since then as well. Been down here about 15 days, and so, like, truly homeless. It's been quite the rough experience, really. There's some context. I mean, I haven't really given that under In the Image Clothing Company content yet, you know, or just documentations of any kind until this. I mean, I actually kind of have, but not quite, you know, fully explained yet. It just is what it is, you know, and we're just really working in all the ways that means, you know, to further the kingdom of God on the earth. I mean, that's the thing. Like real, true work. So, shout out to Dante. And, anyway. It's the 10th of May, Saturday, 2026. Yeah, you don't want socks rotating your ankles. You know, you want socks the proper height, above the ankle joint, but below that bottom end of the calf muscle, you know, the muscle on the rear of the lower leg. The importance of the proper height of shoes, ideally somewhere in the same area, maybe like a 6-inch tall upper of a shoe, give or take, above the ankle joint, but not too high. You know, oh, well, here you go. Always stop lacing at ankle flexion. You know, a video's title here under In the Image Clothing Company's main side, but just, yeah, there's only one location the ankle flexes, and so stop the lacing there. Whew, I feel like I'm gonna pass out, and it's kind of not a joke at all when it's, you know, right around 100 degrees Fahrenheit in the dry Utah Mojave Desert here, and I haven't really eaten or drank much at all since I woke up. So anyway, just is what it is, man. I'm just not joking about it. I don't have some kind of like startup company or hyped up thing. It's nothing conditional to a time period or any human being or part of the earth, you know, like from human to human. It's just, there's a universal human design. This is the same always and forever. designed in the image of God. So, here's your clothing company. Shoelaces and drawstrings, you know, the importance of a non-forgiving waistband, you know, round shoelaces, round drawstrings, keeping things nice and firm and taut, you know. Stretch is not only stretch, but even just give in things is similar to stretch, you know. Things need to be really nice and firm, just like natural things on the earth. They're just really nice and firm. The ground's really nice and firm, you know. The truth is something that we take to be harsh and hard if we're not willing to accept it. So